Namaste children, welcome back again to this virtual class. In today's episode, we will be starting a new chapter under biology of your class 10 science, that is heredity and evolution. In the last episode, we have winded up the chapter by how do organisms reproduce. In that we have clearly seen what is sexual reproduction and what is asexual reproduction, and also we have seen the advantage of sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction. We have seen that during sexual reproduction we see variation in the living organism. So variation is one of the important factor which we see in sexual reproduction, which gives survival advantage and many more things in case of sexual reproduction. So extending the previous chapter, in today's episode, today's video is all about knowing about the heredity and evolution. So from the previous chapter, it is very much clear that we could see variation due to the error in the copying process of DNA. So it is not absolutely possible to make exact copy of the DNA from parent to the child. Somewhat error we could see. This error in copying DNA acts as a source of variation. In case of asexual reproduction, the error is a little bit less, so we see less variation in asexual reproduction, whereas in case of sexual reproduction we have seen two parents are involved, one is male and another one is female. So the copying process involves copying of DNA from both the parents. So error in copying DNA from both the parents create more variation. So in the new offspring, in the new generation, we could see more and more variation in case of sexual reproduction than asexual reproduction. Dear students, you should know, if more and more errors are occurred during copying DNA, then more variation we will see in the next generation. But the extent of variation that are established in the new generation depends upon various factors, climatic condition. If the error is more, if the error caused to a new generation is not adaptable to the climatic condition, then ultimately the new generation or the new living organism will die. But if the living organism adapts to the climatic condition with respect to the changes or the variation acquired by the new organism, then ultimately we can see more and more variation. So altogether we can say that more variation is expected in case of sexual reproduction, whereas in asexual mode of reproduction we could see variation but not to the extent of sexual reproduction. Reproduction always gives some sort of variation due to error in copying DNA process, and if more error is occurred, then more variation we could see, and we have seen more variations can be expected in case of sexual reproduction, since the DNA copying process takes place from two parents, right? We know that the characteristics are being transferred from parent to child, and this process we call it as inheritance. So we can say that inheritance provides both a basic body design and subtle changes in it, which means the basic design of the organism is being transferred, from which we can identify the individual very clearly. But although they look similar, some subtle changes also occurred. Let us understand this process in detail.
Let us suppose this is the first generation or the parental generation. From this, other generations have been formed. So in all the offsprings you can see the basic structure. That means here we can thought of a circle and some structures are there, right? So this is the prototype and the basic design which all the generations will have. So we can see all the living organisms having certain basic design. Apart from this, some subtle changes also we can observe in each generation due to error in copying of DNA. You see here, when offsprings are formed here from one organism, two organisms are formed here, right? So the basic design is same, but subtle change we can think this is the subtle change. Here in the parental there is no red color, but here it has got the red color, right? Whereas in the other offspring you can see this pattern is matching, but here it is green in color, whereas the parental has no such a green color. So this is the subtle change, a small change which can see in the coming generation. Now from this again two organisms are formed. Again the basic structure, basic design of the organism is preserved, as you can see, one circle and four other parts. You see here the red color is also preserved. Here all other designs are preserved, but here you can see a small change. Likewise in other offspring, from this you can see all other characters are equal, but right hand side you can see some changes, right? So this way, from the first generation, this is our third generation, this is fourth generation, this is our second generation, and this is our third generation, right? If you compare the variations of the third generation with respect to first, you can see much more variation as the generation goes on increasing, right? On the right hand side, that is the offspring formed from the right hand side, you see here everything is same, but green color is also existing, but the color of the central part, here it is blue and here it is sky blue, right? So this can be thought of a subtle change. Similarly in right hand side you can see everything is same, no change in the colors, right? So this way, as the generation goes on increasing, we can see small changes, and finally we can see a large change. There would be only very minor differences between them generated due to small inaccuracies in DNA copying. Do all these variations in a species have equal chances of surviving in the environment in which they find themselves? Obviously not. Depending on the nature of variations, different individuals would have different kinds of advantages. Bacteria that can withstand heat will survive better in a heat wave. Selection of variants by environmental factors forms the basis for evolutionary processes.
So this way we can understand accumulation of variation during reproduction. Dear students, whatever the characteristics we have, it may be the pattern of your hair, color of your skin and your body designs and many more, all these characteristics are inherited from your parents. So we can say that the characteristics are being transferred from parent to child. This we call it as a heredity. None of the characters are acquired of its own. All these are acquired from your parents, right? So this process we call it as heredity. In order to understand heredity, let us learn some of the important terms. Firstly, you should know what is trait. Trait is a visible characteristic or characters we can say. One of the character, I'll tell you, ear, the pattern of your ear, the size of your eyes, the texture of your body, the hair design, all these are individual characters we say. This character we call it as traits, and these traits are transferred from your parent to you. So this we call it as inherited traits. So now it is very much clear that the traits or the characteristics what we have all are inherited from our parents, right? Now the question is there any rule to be followed to inherit these characteristics from our parents to the child? Yes, students, there are rules. By following those rules only the inheritance of traits take place from parent to the child. So whatever the traits to be transferred from one generation to another generation are all carried out by following certain rules. Let us understand all these rules in detail. In order to know the rules of inheritance, Mendel found out a number of visible contrasting characters upon which the inheritance could be understood very clearly. He found that some of the contrasting characters are color of the seeds, pattern of the seeds, wrinkle and round, color of the flowers, tall plant and short plant. By using these characteristics, he found out how the inheritance are passing from one generation to another. Let us understand all this in detail.
Mendel took pea plants with different characteristics, initially a tall plant and a short plant, produced progeny from them. Here progeny means offspring. The new generation what we obtain, we call it as progeny. Mendel took two plants, one is tall plant and a short pea plant, and upon reproduction, sexual reproduction, a new generation will be obtained, that we call it as F1 generation or F1 progeny. Now he observed that if you see the chromosomes here, TT, these are the tall plant. For tall, capital T and capital T is the trait of the tall plant, and small t and small t, this is the trait for the short plant. Let us see what happens if sexual reproduction between these two plants, two generations. In F1 generation, what happens? Let us see. In the first generation, what happens? This capital T and small t crosses each other, and secondly here we can write like this, and this capital T will be crossed with the small t, and finally this will be crossed with this. So in the first generation we will get capital T small t, capital T small t, capital T small t, and in all the cases we get capital T small t. It is observed that when tall plants and short plants are pollinated or under sexual reproduction, the first generation produces all the plants tall, as you can see here also. See here, one is tall plant, another one is short plant, but in the F1 generation you can see all the plants are tall. And you see the traits. In the traits, if you look at carefully, one is capital T and another one is small t. Here capital T is for tallness and small t is for short. Here you can see capital T is alone expressed in the first generation, not the small t. Small t is for short, right? And capital T is for tall. Here both capital T and small t is there, but the capital T is very well expressed, right? So the trait which gets expressed in the generation, we call it as a dominant trait. So here capital T, tallness, is the dominant trait. Whereas here you see small t is also there, but its characteristic is not expressed. So such a trait which is not expressed in the offspring, we call it as a recessive trait. We call it as recessive trait. So dear students, you should know what is dominant and the recessive trait. So when we take dominant trait as capital T, then the recessive trait will be small. So the dominant and the recessive traits are expressed by capital letters and small letters. Now this is how the first generation is created. Now once the first generation is created, what the Mendel did was he self-pollinated the progeny produced in the first generation. In the last episode we have talked about self-pollination, right, in which the pollen grains transfer within the same flower. When the pea plants from the first generation is self-pollinated, then in that case what is obtained, what was the conclusion he got about that, we will see. Now here you see one is capital T small t, here capital T small t. So let us take another capital T small t and here capital T small t. Upon pollination, what we get is, firstly we will get capital T, so here we will write this one, and secondly here capital T and small t. Third chance will be capital T again small t. Then our fourth chance will be small t small t. Now upon self pollination, here we get the ratio of the plants obtained will be here 3:1. See here, this plant is tall plant and this is also tall plant, but although both the plants are tall, but the generation produced in the F2 generation, here we can say that this is F2 generation. So the progeny produced in the F2 generation, you see 3 plants are tall. In the F2 generation, you see you can find 3 plants are tall and 1 plant we get short. But if you compare the characteristic of the parents, both the parents are tall. Although they are tall, but the offspring what they produce, have one short plant. From this you can understand the traits very clearly, that here capital T, here capital T is the dominant trait, right? So one capital T is sufficient to express its characteristics. So here in all the three cases you can see one capital T is there, but in the fourth case you see the capital T is not there. Here in this case you can see both the traits are small, so here no dominant traits, here both are recessive. So in order to form a short plant, both T should be in small. So the recessive factor you can see here. So one plant out of 4 becomes short. So in all these experiences, on the right side you can see here capital T, small t, both are tall plants, right? But the generation what they produce, here 3 plants we get tall, since the capital T, which is a dominant trait, gets expressed. So in 3 plants we get capital T as dominant trait, so 3 tall plants we are getting. But in the last case you can see both are small t, which is a recessive factor, so we get short plants. Although their parents are tall, but you see carefully the traits, they are capital T, small t. If you compare the parent of these traits, they are produced from the plants in which one is tall and one is short. From those combinations only we obtained such traits, so only we get a short plant. So from this we can say that although some of the traits will be there in the generation, but they may not get expressed due to their recessiveness. So in order to get express the traits, it must have dominant trait. So each traits will be received from both the parents, but whether the trait is expressed or not depends upon how dominant the trait is or how recessive the trait is.
In the F1 generation, that is first generation, he observed that all the plants are tall. Although he reproduced, the reproduction took place between tall plant and short plant, and he got all the plants are tall. There is no mixture of characteristics or medium sized plant he did not get. So from this it is clear that although the DNA copying process take place from both the parents, but only one character is visible in the new generation.
So just before we have crossbred with a tall pea plant with a short pea plant, right? So only one characteristic we have taken in each plant. What will happen if 2 characteristics instead of 1 is taken in a pea plant and they are crossbred? Then what will be the output in the first generation and in the second generation? About that we will see. For that, let us take some of the characteristics in the first pea plant. Suppose this is the first plant in which we take tallness as the first trait and another one is round seed. So these are the 2 characteristics which we see in the first pea plant. Now let us assume the second plant. Here the plant is somewhat short and here the seed is round. Here we take it as a wrinkle seed. So now we have 2 characteristics in each pea plant. So in the first plant, tallness and round seed are the 2 characteristics, and in the second plant, short and wrinkle are the characteristics or traits we see in the second pea plant. Now if they are crossbred, then what will be the output in the first generation? About that we will see. For that, let us denote the trait first. So in order to denote it, for tallness we will write T, which is dominant here. So if it is dominant, we know that it is denoted by capital letters. So here 2 capital letters T, this is for tallness, and we assume that the round is also dominant. So in place of round, the first letter of R we can take as R. So both are the dominant factors. Here when we take and denote the traits in the second plant, then here short is there, we will not use the first letter S. Here opposite of short is tall. So here tall is the dominant factor denoted by T. Recessive factor of tallness is short, so recessive factor is denoted by small letter. So here we will write small letter T, right? Got it, children? Now Here in the first plant, roundness is the one of the trait of the seed. In the second plant, the seed is wrinkled. So here also we will not be using first letter W. So students make mistake in writing the trait letters. So here first trait is written, then the other trait can be written by using the same letters, but instead of capital letters, the recessive can be written in small letters. So R wrinkled, we can write it as R. So we just find here the gamete for the first plant. The gamete will be capital T and capital R is the gamete for the first plant, that is tall plant with the round seeds. For this, the gamete will be small t small r. Now if they are bred, here the cross breeding will take place, and as a result of this pollination we will get the combination like this, capital T and TT together we have to write, and RR we have to write. So these two, one trait and this is the another characteristic. So you can see here very well, the tallness and shortness are the traits, they are inherited from their parents, and likewise here roundness and wrinkle, both the characteristics or the traits are inherited from their parents. You see here all the plants in the F1 progeny, or this is the F1 generation, all the plants in the F1 generation will be tall and round seeded. Here you see in all the cases you will get one capital T, one small t, and one capital R and one small r. And you should know the capital letter is the dominant trait. So the dominant trait will be expressed in the generation. So here capital T is the tallness and capital R is the round seeded. So all the plants in F1 generation will be tall and round seeded. Now what will happen if these plants are self-pollinated? Upon self-pollination we will get some of the plants will be tall and round seeded as expected. In this we are getting tall and round seeded, so tall and round seeded. In the first generation also we have tall and round seeded, right? So likewise in F2 generation also, in F2 progeny we get some plants tall and round seeded, some plants will be short and wrinkled seeds. This is also we have here, you can see short and wrinkle. Apart from these two combinations, some other mixtures of the traits will also be observed. What type of mixtures? Some plants will be tall with wrinkled seeds. This combination we did not have initially. You see here tall, round, short, wrinkled, but in the F2 generation we used to get some plants with tallness and wrinkled seeds, and also some of the plants will be short and round seeded. Although these traits are not individually expressed in the first and the second type of plants, but when the generation goes on increasing, then different variations we used to get, right? Thus the tall and short and the round seeded and wrinkle seeded are the traits independently inherited.
So we know that in sexual reproduction, two sexes are participating to produce a new individual. We call it as male and female. In case of human beings, the sex determination is a bit complicated, whereas in some of the organisms, the sex determination is based on certain environmental factors. If temperature is more, then the newborn individual will be some other sex, and snails and all, it can change its sex. And many other organisms, the sex determination is different, whereas in case of human beings the sex determination is bit different. Let us now understand how sex of a newborn baby is determined. Now we should know, human beings, we have 22 pairs of chromosomes and one odd pair of chromosome. We call it as sex chromosome.
Dear students, you should know that all human chromosomes are not paired. Most human chromosomes have a maternal copy, the DNA received from maternal. Here maternal means mother, that is female or girl we can say, and another one is paternal copy. Here paternal means father and the male character. So the chromosomes are inherited from mother as well as father. We call it as maternal copy and paternal copy, and we have 22 such pairs of chromosomes. But one pair called the sex chromosomes is odd in not always being a perfect pair. In case of female, you can see here XX chromosome, as you can see here. When we talk about female, the sex chromosome will be XX, and when we talk about male, the male sex chromosome will be XY. Here you can see very clearly that women have a perfect pair of sex chromosomes, that is X and X, whereas men have a mismatched pair in which one is normal sized X and other one is a short, which is called Y chromosome. So women are having sex chromosomes XX and male are having chromosomes XY. Now by following the rules of inheritance, we can work out for finding or for determining the sex of a newborn baby. So let us see, in the first case we will see here the X, and from here it is X, so the combination would be XX, right? The second combination we can make here as X from the, here it is female and this is male, right? X from female and Y from male. And in the second instance we can write X from female and X from male. And at last the fourth combination would be X from female and Y from male. So in this you can see very well that in the 2X instances we see XX chromosomes likely to be a girl child, right? Here also girl child, and in two other instances we will get a boy, right? So here also the probability of getting boy. So from this we can say that 50% is for male child and 50% chance for female child. So from this inheritance process, half the children will be boys and half will be girls. All children will inherit an X chromosome from their mother regardless of whether they are boys or girls. As you can see here very clearly, you see here in the first case it is the X obtained from the female, in the second option also X is obtained from the female, and in the third instance also we get X from female, and the fourth case also we get X from female. Whereas if you see the contribution of chromosome by male, you can see, you see here in the first case X chromosome, an X chromosome is inherited from the male. In the second case you see a Y chromosome is being inherited from the male, and in the third instance you can see X chromosome is being inherited from the male, and in the fourth again Y chromosome is being inherited from the male. So we can say that all children will inherit X chromosome from the mother or female. You see here 1, 2, 3, 4. In all the cases female has only X chromosome, so nothing else to contribute. So in all the cases female will contribute only the X chromosome, whereas in male you can see X and Y, both the chromosomes are present. So 50% probability is there to contribute X chromosome, so the newborn baby may inherit X chromosome or Y chromosome from the parent. So the sex of the children will be determined by what they inherit from their father. A child who inherits an X chromosome from her father will be a girl, and one who inherits a Y chromosome from him will be a boy. Sex of a newborn baby will be very much decided by the inheritance of the chromosome from the male.
So that's all we have for today's session. On the basis of today's learning, let me give you some easy home assignments which you can practice at home. Here is your home assignment. Hope you will do all these home assignments very easily. See you all on another day with a remaining portion of this chapter. Till then, keep learning. Take good care of yourself. Bye.